The Quiet Place series hits theaters again this weekend with its prequel, A Quiet Place Day One. Should you go see it? Let's talk about it. Welcome back, Kernels. I just got home from seeing A Quiet Place Day One. I have a lot to say about this movie and just kind of comparing it to the first and the second one. But real quick, before we dive into this review, if you are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any other reviews like this one. And also stay tuned for, I might be doing a ranking of all three Quiet Place movies. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll see kind of how that goes. And just so you guys know, there obviously will be spoilers in this review. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, save this video and then come back later. Because there are going to be serious spoilers ahead. Let's dive into A Quiet Place Day One. The movie mostly follows this girl named Sam, who is kind of, I think she has some kind of disease. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we know that she does not have a long time to live. It starts off where she's in some hospice center. She has these patches that help like give her her medicine. When her group decides to take a trip to the city, because I think she lives right on the outskirts of New York City, to go see a play, kind of just, you know, get those people out of the house, get the people out of the center, and just kind of have a good time. This is when the meteors hit of all the monsters, and she is immediately stuck in the city as they destroy all the bridges. And now her only goal, because she knows she does not have, you know, long to live, is to get to Harlem and to have a slice of pizza. Now, it might sound, you know, simplistic on the cover, but it's more than that because, you know, that is where she grew up. She kind of grew up in Harlem. She grew up going to this one place with her dad, and to finally, you know, experience that life again. She's been cooped up in this, you know, very hospital-like area, and she feels like she hasn't been able to live. This is her last kind of dying request. About a third into the movie, she meets this guy named Eric, who is just a guy from England who is now in New York City practicing law. And he kind of almost dies. He comes up from the subway where he meets Sam's cat, who then kind of like leads the two together, and they embark on this journey. He kind of just doesn't want to be alone. You know, he's afraid. He almost just died, and he decides to join Sam on her journey to go get a slice of pizza. First thing I need to talk about with this movie is just how much more cinematic it is than the first two movies. The first two movies are very good at being horror-centered, and they're very good movies, but this one just takes that extra step forward and making it very cinematic. I can't quite explain it. You'll have to kind of go see it for yourself, but there are certain shots of like the city, of just like destruction, and just the way that it's shot of like very terrifying, like how quick things can go from being, you know, normal to just pure out chaos. And it can happen to anyone. Joseph Quinn here kills his role. I mean, most people know him from Eddie Munson on Stranger Things. You know, he's going to be later, next year, he's going to be appearing as Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four. But this is one of those new roles that you kind of get to see what he's about outside of that Stranger Things role. And he absolutely kills it here. He has a big emotional range here for sure too. Like he starts off being, I don't want to say a crybaby, but he's definitely like scared, and he kind of works up his courage throughout the movie and just kind of is here to protect Sam because she's not the most, you know, able to do the most for herself because she's, you know, sick, and she can do some things, like, but he is definitely there to help and just help her reach her goal. One of the first things that intrigued me when I first heard about A Quiet Place Day One, I was like, okay, like we kind of got Day One with the, like with our other characters from part one and part two, so like what is this gonna be? Having this movie take place in New York is one of the best things they could have done. Obviously, yes, it's one of the most loud cities, but what really got me is like how many different scenarios can play out here with how many different people there are, different cultures there are, different, you know, just all these different factors that are involved in having a movie where things need to be dead silent and having it take place in New York City. What's really cool is that like the helicopters that were surrounding the city were trying to like, I don't know if they were trying to distract them, but they were trying to get these boats like off of so that people could survive, right? And I think that they were using the helicopters as a way to like, because they can't reach the helicopters, but they can sure hear them, so they follow them all across. Not to mention, there are like, in the first two movies, there's like, I don't know, maybe 10 monsters that we see in total throughout the whole movie. This one, there's easily like 100, 200 monsters, and it's like a giant stampede of them all coming at once. It's very, needless to say, there's a lot of them. I would say that this was definitely the most like nerve-wracking, like kind of scared beyond words that I've been watching these movies, just because these are characters that there's so many different factors, again, like I said, that if somebody, you know, does the wrong thing, or all it takes is one, you know, thing to go off, or one thing to go wrong in a city full of, you know, millions of people, and that's exactly what happens. There's so many different factors. There's so many different things going on in the city that are left behind. There's so many times where like things are like really close quarters, and there's just so many of these things that, and also adding to that, they add those cinematic shots that just make those scared moments even more stressful. They do take Sam's kind of plot into a really beautiful direction, where she like just wants, you know, all she says, I want that slice of pizza, and it really is, it's a symbol for more than that, but it's such a good, like, even I think when they get to the pizza shop, they don't, like, it's burned down or something from the attacks and everything, but I think Eric, he goes to like the one place next door, and that they do have pizza. He gets a marker and he writes the name of the place that she went with her dad, and it's a very sweet moment about just like appreciating life, about, you know, what used to be and what life is now. I will say, by the end of the movie, Joseph Quinn's character Eric is able to get on a boat because Sam realizes that she is not going to be able to survive, so she gives him her cat, and she like takes this like crowbar, starts slamming all of the cars in this like giant like highway kind of on the side of New York, so that she can distract them. She actually doesn't die there though. She kind of dies at the very final shot of the movie, where she just, once she's ready to die, and she unplugs her iPod from like the box that she has, and it plays out loud, and then they kind of all come to her. But Joseph Quinn's character does escape with the cat onto the boat, so it's safe to assume that he might be on that island that we saw in A Quiet Place Part 2, and might even still be alive. So you kind of never know if he'll end up showing up in A Quiet Place Part 3, which I believe is going to be the final movie. Another cool callback was that Henry, that we saw in A Quiet Place Part 2, is in this movie. He actually is in the very beginning of the movie, and then he's at the very end of the movie when they're on the boat. And that was really cool to see, because it kind of connects some of the dots. You know, it's not like a direct, like, we don't meet any of the ones from, we don't meet the main family from A Quiet Place Part 1 or Part 2, but we do get to see, like, a familiar character, and that was really, like, it felt like the world was coming together. Overall, this movie does a fantastic job at just world building. It does a great job at making the A Quiet Place series more cinematic, and if they were to take the cinematic aspects of this movie and add it to the third part, they would have me sold, because I love the story that they're telling in the third part. I want to see where they go with the whole microphone kind of killing these monsters idea, and I would love to see, you know, Joseph Quinn's character Eric kind of meet and maybe interact with our characters from the first and second movie, to kind of, you know, blend that whole world together for one final movie. So yeah guys, that'll just about do it. But before we go, I will actually be posting my June movies ranked video list, so just kind of stay tuned for that to see where this movie kind of falls this month for me. And till next time guys, peace.